So this is a guy, he's a business coach basically, and he teaches people about how to get businesses, how to build up money, how to make tons of money off programs and all this stuff. So I'm watching all that stuff because, hey, I'm on here. I do this for free for YouTube, but I also have programs to sell. And so I'm just learning better ways to get the word out about my stuff, right? But he had an interesting video, which is like 16 minutes long. I'm not going to show the whole thing, but at the end of the video, I thought that what he started talking about was very parallel. In fact, it's pretty much exactly what I talked to you guys about on this program, which is having systems in place in order to have more success. And so I thought the way he put it as it pertains to business is exactly what you should be doing as it pertains to your dating life, because oftentimes sales and dating, a lot of the things that work in the sales area will parallel and work very, very well in the dating area. So let me go ahead and bring him up to the screen here because I want to show you guys this video for sure. All right, so here's the guy. His name is Dan something. I'll write it in the notes later on. But let's go ahead and see what he's talking about here.
I'm going to leave you with the number one thing I learned from Sam that allowed me to literally fix any problem in my business and create income anytime I wanted. And this right here is the $500,000 of advice condensed down to just 1 minute. All
right, guys, so you're about to get $500,000 worth of advice. And I'm pretty sure it's advice that I've given, but it's from the money angle, but it's going to help you out. Here we go.
There's a process called systems thinking. And I want you to
systems thinking.
Envision it like a triangle. You have an input, and then you have an output, and then you have analyzation. So in other words, you do something, you see what happens as a result, and then you study that thing and make changes, and then you do it again.
All right, so let's see what this graph right here is saying, right? So we have the first part, which is the input, which basically says, okay, I'm trying to figure out how to change my outcome or change my whatever I'm getting out right now that I either find favorable or not favorable, or I want to improve it. So input, you do an action, you do a thing, right? You do that input, and then from there, you see what the result is. You see the output that happens from you doing, if you're doing X, you're going to get Y, right? And so you see what the Y is. And then the last part, which I consider to be the most important part, is the analyzation. When I did this thing happened. Okay, what does that mean? Do I continue to do the input that I just got? Well, was the outcome that I got favorable or was it not? If it was, then we either continue to do that thing and figure out ways to maybe do it better, or we scrap that idea and we try something else. All right, continuing.
So you change the input. A very simple example would be if I create a sales video for one of my products and I send a bunch of people to it. That's the input, right? That the sales video is the input. Let's say 1,000 people watch that sales video and 10 people buy. That's a 1% conversion rate. 1% of people bought.
This is very low, by the way.
After watching the video. Input is the sales video, 1% conversion rate is output. So now I assess and I study what happened and I figure out how can I get that to say 1.5%, 2%. I make an educated guess on how I can do that and I change the input. That could be re-recording the video, editing it differently, whatever. And then I do it again. And then I assess the output. And if I do this enough times, it will go up, 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 up. One time I created a sales video for a program and it completely bombed. It took me 7 versions of that video before it started working. And that ended up making me millions of dollars. Most people would.
Okay, so before we get to that part. So this is literally, guys, all that I did for my dating life. Was I got to a point where I realized, okay, I'm not getting the results I want. So let's slow things down. Let's not try to aim for a relationship. Let's aim for step-by-step stuff. Okay, my goal right now is to get a date. Can I get a date? So through trial and error, I would try some things. I try online dating. I try asking girls out. I try asking them out in various different ways. And eventually I figured out some ways that worked for me to actually get women on dates. Fantastic. Okay, what's the next thing? I want to get to like a second date because I was getting a lot of first dates and then like they wouldn't go anywhere. So I'd be like, okay, I do those things on first dates. I would do the whole thing of like, I get to the end of the date. This is a perfect example. I get to the end of a date. I'd say, hey, I'd love to see you some other time. When are you free? So I would try to set up a second date on a first date. And more often than not, the output that I got was there'd be no second date. So I said, okay, that's not working. What else can I try? How about if I get to the end of the date and I just say, I had a great time, and I don't mention trying to have a second date. And so I started doing that, and I found that as a result, I hit him up later, and I started getting more second dates. I was like, that's great, but I'm not getting enough second dates. I need more of them. What am I adding that I'm not doing? Well, after that date, even though I'm not, saying I want a second date, I'm still either texting them when they get home or I'm texting them a good morning the next day and I hope they had a good time. So what if I remove texting them immediately after a date and just wait for a few days? Let's see what happens when I do that. So the input now was take them on a date, tell them I had a good time, go home, wait 4 days, see what happens. And I found that when I did that, I got like 98% of women going on second dates. I was like, oh, this is amazing. So all I did is what this guy's talking about. I knew I didn't have all the skills that I needed, but I would do one skill at a time. I would try one thing at a time. I'd try one input to see if I got a better dating output. And when I did, I'd mark that down. Then I'd try something else. And over time, just start building up all these things. So this is why I have like years of knowledge, because I spent years being bad at dating, but being willing to try new inputs in hopes of new outputs. I would then analyze those outputs, and then the ones that worked well, I would continue on. The ones that didn't, I would stop them, because I was not the guy that's like, well, I got to stick to this thing because it feels good. But if it's not working for me, why would I do it? So this is all business people do. The most successful business people, they try a thing, they see if it works or not, they analyze it, and then they either do it again if it works well, or they change it up if it's not. And I stress this because sometimes as guys, we get so stuck in our ego about the thing that I'm doing. Sure, it's not working, but it has to. But look at the input and output. You are constantly texting women all the time. Are you getting the positive outcome you want in dating as a result of it? You're probably not. You're complimenting women all the time. Oh, you look so pretty. Oh, you're talking about your feelings. Oh, I can see us being together. And then they suddenly ghost. Is that the output you want? If not, you have to really start looking at breaking down bit by bit. What things am I saying on dates? What things am I trying to ask of her? Am I over-touching her? Am I texting? What things am I doing that are getting me these negative outputs? And then as I take them away and or replace them with other things, am I getting new outputs? My program, I have a whole section about after that first date. All you do is go back home and analyze, okay, what things did I do right? What things did I do wrong? When did she smile at me? When did she do this? What did this signal me? Like, because the better you're able to analyze the situation, you'll know after that first date, based on my analysis, I'm probably getting a second date because she probably is building interest. Or you can say, oh, based on that first date, like she was kind of like, she wasn't really walking near me and she kind of gave me like the church hug at the end. Like based on that analysis, I'm going to still ask for that second date, but if it doesn't happen, don't be surprised and try some other stuff, right? Now, I like this next part he's about to say, because I think it's very important for you guys to see. So let's check it out.
Most people would just quit at that first or second video, and they would leave millions of dollars on the table because they aren't doing systems thinking. They're doing emotional thinking. Oh my God, the video didn't work. Therefore, I suck and the world sucks and I should just work at McDonald's.
And that is like all the internet. Like, oh my God, I asked a girl on a date and she ghosted me, and so all girls suck and they're terrible. They don't want to blah, 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 blah. That's what all guys do. Not all guys. I'm not going to be generalist here, but plenty of guys, or what, like, ones that write me, they'll say like, oh my God, like I tried to ask her out, or she started to pull away one time, and oh my God, all girls suck and I don't know what to do. And it's like, dude, like you tried one time, you asked out a couple of girls, they said either no or I can't make it, and you got butt hurt and thought that was going to be end all be all, versus stopping and thinking, but wait, how did I approach her? How did I ask her out? Was I wearing something weird, or my clothes like unwrinkled? Did I smell bad when I asked her out? Like you need to really think about, okay, if it's one girl, it's one thing. If you ask out like 5 women and they're all saying no, you need to start looking at, okay, what was the same thing in each of the times that I asked these women out? Could I have done it differently? I've been on Reddit all day today getting stuff for this show, where a lot of guys are like asking the question, well, I realize I like this girl now. Should I just go and tell her that I like her and that we should go out? And I'm like, oh my God, that used to be me. I used to think in order to get a girl on a date, I would have to first tell her that I like her and that I don't want to use her for sex, and then ask her for the date. So let's study that input. I go up to a girl and say, hey, just so you know, we've been friends for a while, but I really, really like you. And I think you're just the best person in the world. And I think we should go out. What was the output? The output was in person, they'd be like, oh, that's so sweet. I just see you as a friend, but thanks for telling me. And then they stop talking to me altogether. Not a very good input, right? Because I analyzed that. So telling girls that I like them before asking them out isn't getting me dates, and then they leave me. Okay, let me reverse this. Let me ask them on a date first before I start trying to divulge feelings and see what happens. And then when I did that, lo and behold, I get a few dates because now I wasn't putting any pressure on them to have to already have feelings for me in accepting a date, But that comes from not being so in a situation where it's like all girls are crazy. And if they don't like what I'm doing, then that just means that they're difficult and I don't want to try anymore. I'm going home. That's not going to work. So you got to understand, yes, women have their part to play, but this is the show talking to you. I'm all about holding you accountable for your results. And if your results aren't the ones you like, then it means you got to change your inputs.
Versus input, output, analyzation. Input, output, analyzation. I will be a robot because that is how entrepreneurs make money. They don't focus on their feelings. They focus on actual data.
See that? Now, some guys don't like to hear that. Some guys don't like to hear, wait, I need to be robotic in my dating life. Why do I have to study a system? Because then it doesn't seem like it's emotional and girls won't like it. And the reality is that women like men who have plans. And they like that because it makes them feel as though guys understand you and they get you. So you can't be, this is why I've said on the show before, you cannot be overly emotionally invested early on, because your part of the dating process is to make sure that things are going for her smoothly. You need to focus more on, am I showing her a good enough time to where she feels safe and secure? You should not be focusing on, and am I building an emotional connection, and does she like me, and do I need to tell her how much I care about her? Like, that's not your job. And because, like he says, if you just have a system in place and you're able to functionally follow that system time and time again, you will find that you will be able to get more women because, surprise, surprise, most women want the same stuff. So like with my Introvert Dating Success Academy, it's not that I'm trying to teach you to be a robot or to do things exactly as I do, but it's going to give you some key insights that'll help you rethink about the way that you're dating to whereby you can develop a system properly that's going to work for you and not have you looking needy, desperate, vying for her attention, not confident, nervous all the time. Like, I know if you're like me, none of those things feel good, right? Like being anxious when you walk up to a hot girl doesn't feel good. And it doesn't feel good for her either because it puts her on a pedestal, which we'll get into later in the show. But suffice to say, this is why you as the guy coming to the table need to be a man with a plan. You need to already know the things you're going to say to a woman when you first talk to her. You need to already have restaurants in place or ideas of dates that you can take her on so you don't have to ask her. You need to know, okay, at what point am I going to be pushing myself to make the first kiss move or the first handhold move on these dates? Like all these things you need to learn and get into your system. So that way, once it's a system of you, the nice thing is you won't be so nervous around women anymore. And then women will just think that you naturally know what you're doing. And you will, because you will have practiced it enough to where it becomes a habit to where to you, it'll start to feel natural. In the beginning, it will not. But if you don't start, then you're going to always be that nervous person that's wondering, why can't I get girls? And oh my God, I don't know what to do. And I don't want you to be that person.
Like that, you're going to make money. You can even do this with health. You try a diet for 2 weeks, you assess the output, and then you analyze and you change your diet. Literally, systems thinking will help you in any aspect of your life.
Yes, any aspect of your life, and especially dating. It is not romantic to say, hey, figure out a system so you can get all the women's. But each woman you're dating will not care that you tried whether you're trying on her on like 10 other people. All she'll care about is that whatever you're doing is making her feel safe and secure, and it makes her view you as a fun guy that she could potentially see a relationship with. So it behooves you to get some kind of system. Obviously, at my website, you can check out my Introvert Dating Success Academy, but whether it's mine or somebody else that you gel with better, figure out a way to develop a system that'll get you out of your head so you won't be so nervous, and it'll allow you to better study the inputs that you're putting into your dating life so you can get more favorable outcomes. So hopefully that video helped you out. You's a bad boy, but you can't stop, won't stop. You a high earning, high value, high class man. You a high earning, high value, high class man. You a high earning, high value, high class man. You a high class man. You a high class man. You a